How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today got the next one in my top 10 trucks. Number 2, it's the Voron Grad. I do like this truck. I like this truck for a lot of reasons, which I'll get into. I mean, for starters, it goes nice over snow. It can jump over the barriers. It's got very nice speed. One of the main things I actually do like about this is the high range gearbox, but the actual high range gear itself. You can basically put it in high when you go in like 1 mile an hour. And unless you're in really boggy mud or something, it's just going to wind up in high and then set off. And yeah, even if you hit stuff and you get slowed down and that, it just doesn't really... It's very rare that it ever stalls in high. It's just one of them that's like, you point it somewhere, you squeeze the trigger, you do have to jiggle around a bit. It's not like... It doesn't just fly over every landscape like it's nothing, but I just like the fact that you don't have to keep jumping from high range to auto and all sorts every 2 seconds, because yeah, it's just one of the best trucks in the game for just sitting in high range gear. And it motors along very nicely. I like flying down these roads in Northport from the garage. I suppose flying towards the port, but I believe I end up turning off to the right here and just having a little... Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I like doing these videos because when I originally started them, I thought tonight, I was like, oh yeah, it'll only be like a 15-20 minute video because it's a pretty simple one. And then yeah, I start making footage. Well, basically, I just give myself this truck for the night and go out in it and just mess around, and there's not really anything for me to specifically do. Just enjoy myself flying all over the terrain. And then I inevitably get up to all sorts of stuff. And yeah, the video's a bit longer. It's just a tad over half an hour this time, but again, I think the Voron Grad has earned it. Quick look at my trailer store. It's coming along pretty nicely. If anyone needs any special cargo things, or whatever they're called, service repair thing, I don't know. Anyway, I've got them for sale. One thing I will say is the steering is a tad slow. I wouldn't say it's terrible or anything. I think because I drive stuff like the Dolphin and that a lot as well, I don't feel it's too bad, but the Taiga is kind of on the quick side of steering. This is on the slower side, but I wouldn't say, like for example, the Voron AE is a very good truck, a very capable truck. I don't like the steering on it. It's got a shallow steering angle and it feels slow and like just non-responsive, and it just feels too different from the other trucks. Whereas this, I don't know, I've just always liked it. It's like, ever since I reviewed it, when I reviewed it, I had drove it in Drowned Lands doing the container contest. But, yeah, like, I basically did it along that, which is like a muddy map, and it was doing fine. It was just not getting quite as good times as, say, the Taiga. So, I kind of sold it back for a bit. When I did the review, I was like, I just really like this truck, I like the power of it. If you remember, in fact, back when I did this review, or the day after, the game stole my Voron, which nearly any other truck in the game I'd have just been like, well, bye, and I'll move on. But I actually then had to go and do, I can't remember, an hour or two, more than that really, because I was like, I didn't get the fastest time every time or anything, but I had to go and do a load of container contests, missions, repeating contests to earn another 130 odd grand to buy this thing back. And yeah, I still have no regrets. I still like it. I was glad when I bought it back. The game still says I own 2 of them, but yeah, I've not seen the original yellow one, I think was what it was painted when I last seen it. I've not seen that one since the day it took it. So, rest in peace Voron Mark 1. But yeah, Tuner Mark 2. I don't know why I ended up calling it a tuner. I think it's because I was flopping around on the floor trying to flip myself back up with the trailer. So, that's its name. The Happy Tuner. But either way, it's just, you got to get yourself one. It's definitely, I'd say the only reason, I mean I won't say what's the top spot, but it's probably pretty obvious. But yeah, the only reason I'd say it's slightly missed out, I do have more fun in the other truck, but it's a pretty traditional 6-wheeled truck. I've also got the Taiga, obviously, in my list. Like, there's quite a lot of 6-wheeled trucks really in my list. I suppose that's part of the reason why the Taiga ended up being 4th, not 3rd, and I still have no regrets for that. I had the time of my life last night, flying around with Bruce, stacking all the stuff on it, driving around, just messing around. But yeah, like, I basically have the choice between this and the Taiga. Bruce is a bit more specialist, and I don't know, I just do enjoy this. I do believe at the start, again it could just be me, but I'm convinced something happened to the Tayga where it just lost that like a few percent, where it felt like it had the edge. And then yeah, I don't know, for the last month or two it's just felt like there's a percent or two missing. This thing, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's better than the Tayga, and I wouldn't say it's worse than the Tayga. There's places I think this does better. Snow, definitely. I'd say this is not quite as good in mud as the Tayga, although, having said that, if the Tayga's got its custom muds, did a drift. That's one thing I do like. If you put it in high gear, you just drift around the corner, and yeah, you can make up a lot for the lack of steering by sticking it in high gear and just drifting it. I don't know why I like doing that recently, flying through the trailer store as quick as I can and grabbing a trailer. Yeah, the Tayga, I would say, with the muds on, they're probably about even, but with the chained on, I would say the Tayga is... yeah, I don't know, it's hard, it's bloody close either way, but I would say this thing is definitely extremely good in snow. It's pretty damn good in mud, as you can see. It's certainly having no problem. I was hauling the semi-trailer. It managed to ram through all 8 of those trees, but it did take damage while I was doing it. Obviously these are various different clips edited together. I had another go with the whatever this trailer's called, a little sideboard trailer. I don't really know what else. I flipped the trailer and the cargo fell out. Absolute confidence. I was like, yep, I can miss that post. I'll steer hard left, and yeah, not a chance. What I should have done is just gone right. I should have accepted the inevitable. To be honest, this was nearer the beginning of the night, and after driving all these other trucks for the last few days, I've not actually drove this for a good 4 or 5 days to a week, or not properly anyway, and yeah, for the first hour or so I was getting used to like the steering again, the fact that it does oversteer, but I personally prefer that. It's just when I jumped in it, like when I hadn't drove it for a while, I did oversteer a few times, and I did yeah, steer a bit late into a few things, but soon got used to it. As you can see though, just in high range, it's just hassle free. Again, if you want to go somewhere, but I just feel there is a little bit more fun I'm able to squeeze out of this compared to the Tayga, but I don't know, it's bloody close. Like, I was having the time of my life flying around in the Tayga the other day, and I could kind of argue bumping it up the list a bit, but then yeah, I flew around in this tonight, and I like this as well. As I've said before, with say the top 5 trucks, it's bordering on irrelevant which order they're in. It's like, I just like all of them. They're like easily the top 5 I drive. I wanted to make the list a top 10 because the top 5 were kind of not just obvious, but they're kind of traditionally good. Some of the ones above, in like the twin steer, the P16, I suppose now the GMC 9500, the Colob, they're all a little bit more specialist and unique. They're not necessarily the go-to truck if you just want to objectively complete something, but yeah, they've just got something a little bit more different and unique about them. As I said, a lot of trucks are 6-wheel, like they're this basic setup, so it's definitely tougher competition though with the 6-wheel trucks, because there is no unique angle really, unless they create it themselves, but there's certainly no like particular unique design. But yeah, I've had every truck in the game, I've reviewed every truck in the game. I think there is like 2 Scouts or something I've still got to review, but this thing is definitely just solid. I mean, again, I flew off there like I did with the Tayga. It landed nicely. See, that's what I like though, the drifting. That's what you can't do in the Tayga as well, and that's what I really do enjoy in this truck. It's one of those trucks that up to a certain speed it feels like it hasn't been limited at all, and the limits that are on it, I would say, are within reason and within the mechanics of the game and all the rest of it. Like, it's not as fast as the Tayga at the top end or anything. It's sort of geared, even though they've both got the high range gearbox, they've both got a lot of power. Yeah, I would say this is geared a little bit slower, a bit like the Navistar is, but then because of that it has very nice torque, sort of very punchy power input, and yeah, it drifts, which I do enjoy. But then even when you go in flat out down the roads, it's like, there is a little bit of drift there, but it's not some of the fastest vehicles. And you go flat out down the road in the Royal, you're just going to drift uncontrollably and fly off the road, which again I still find fun. I still take the Royal out just for that, but yeah, over the long run it's can get a little bit of a hassle. This thing's just got a nice pace to it where it's always motoring in the top of high gear, or if you're going along a road, just stick it in auto, but it's still very manageable and controllable. I flew up that hill in high. I mean, there, yeah, seen a bush. I flew in tuna first. Story of my life. To the quarry. There's not many trucks as well that motor through here. They go through that first bit pretty well. When you get to about here, a lot of them can just completely stop. And it's not to say this never would do that or anything. You can see a lot of rooster tails from the wheels where it's flinging water up, so it was close, but it still just jiggle the steering left to right, and you can kind of wiggle your way out of there most times, which is nice. As well, I do like, if you see with the front axle, and I'll show you a little bit of gameplay with the twin chained on the rear, because if you have the twin rear tyres, they sit a lot wider. There's even less chance of rolling. But even with this setup with the single chained, which for off-roading and stuff, I do prefer the single rear chained over the double, just because when you've got like these ruts in the road that have been cut out by what would be like other trucks have been driving there in the past, the single chain just sit in the ruts very well, whereas the double kind of, like I said, bridge over it, and they're sort of touching each side with the corners of their wheels, but a lot of the middle can be just sort of wasted. So I flew off there, did a little endo. I'm kind of ignoring the damage because it's just a troll all night. It's been a troll with every truck, so until they tone it down, that's just the nature of the game. Apologies, there's a little glitch there. But yeah, I was driving through the mud, I was trying to cut around the edge of it. Turned a bit too hard, like I said, no dual rears on at the minute, so rolling is obviously more likely to happen, but I still don't think it's bad for rolling at all. I just flung it in pretty hard, that's what she said. Yeah, I didn't want to give up though. When you got a tuner and a loaf, they get the job done. So, I winched the loaf back into the sideboard, because he's goddamn professional. Stick it in high rate. You see how easy it just sits in high rate. I know I'm still at the minute, and you have to give it a little bit of revs first usually to do this, but I wanted to leave this in this time because I do this quite a lot, and I just cut it out because it generally does take like a minute just to show it. But I was on my side officially. Yeah, stick it in high. The high gear kind of bites all the mud out of the way. Slowly started tipping, and the loaf is riding the sideboard. That definitely sounds like some kind of euphemism, but we made it. We carried on. This was like a bit later. Again, I've been all over the place. I've been to maps multiple times and all sorts tonight. Just going for a lap, enjoying myself. But again, it's got to be, if it's going to make it high on my list, it's got to carry a loaf. That's just all there is to it. Well, it's not just got to carry a loaf, because anything can fit a loaf in with the sideboard, but yeah, it's got to do well. It's got to not tip. So I was turning full angle there, and like, again, I could put the dual rears on, but I still just prefer these for most of the time. I have to say though, having messed around with the dual rears tonight more, especially when I'm not really going anywhere in particular and I'm just messing around or whatever, they were actually pretty cool. I probably will use them a little bit more often when I'm just messing around, because yeah, they were pretty decent. So there's little things in snow, like that little snowbank there. Almost every other truck I go over there in, you lose your high range speed and everything. You just have to drop it into auto for a second and back into high, but this thing is really good on snow. So I got back here, attempt number 2, cutting along the left. It goes through the mud very well, as I sort of do at the end here, but if I'm honest, because of these blocks of ice in all this bit of mud, if you can, and again, this is one of the fewer trucks that can just skirt along the left there in high gear, and it's just no problem, and it's hassle free. Again, I might be drinking my coffee, might be talking to my cat, looking through comments, blah blah blah, and it's yeah, a lot of the time I am genuinely driving one-handed, not looking or anything. So when I can just hold the accelerator down in high, it helps. And through that bit just 5-10 seconds ago, that's like the snooper so section, the super snow section, and it just motors through it. Again, it stayed in high. It's just nice. I like it for that. And yeah, I think I went off on a bit of a tangent. The front axle sits nice and wide, and at the minute it sits wider than the single rears. But obviously when you've got the duals on, they sit slightly wider, but a lot of trucks feel like the axle is quite narrow, and it's like when they tip, they often want to tip from the front first this thing, not to say it won't in the end, obviously you can tip anything in this game, but as you can see, rallying it up there, like it's not like it wants to go or anything. They've kind of kept the weight inside between those front tyres, and because of that it doesn't like try and lean its head over and boat around a lot or anything. Another nice thing as well, is, particularly with the bumper that I've got on it, it sits nice and high. It's got very nice ground clearance from the front, even though it has got a little bit of a nose to it. It does sit very nice and high, which, if anything now, I'd say it's the fuel tank catching the ice. That's one thing that I believe is quite apparent with all the, not like majorly apparent, but if there's one design aspect to the Vorons I could change, it would be to lift the fuel tank up a bit. That's usually what's going to catch, if anything. So you got a little bit arse end happy going around there in high range, but that's what I like about it. It just, yeah, it's quite fun to drive, even though it's simultaneously really easy to drive if you just, you're not paying attention, all the rest of it. But then, I don't know, it's all, at the same time, if you want to, you can really kind of rally it through the snowy roads and it, like, get a bit of a drift going, and yeah, it's quite entertaining and quite fun. But it's still a very capable truck as well. It's not like a one-trick pony that just does pretty well through some bits of snow and that's it. Like, I've delivered some pretty decent stuff with this. I didn't do any of the like 10 cargo missions, but I didn't own it at that point. I didn't have the money. Like, I just didn't have it at that time. So that's again why I'd like to refresh the missions. But you see, flying down there, even a few trucks I did the other day, like I jumped down there, I clipped the nose first, even the Taiga did. cooked it around the corner. Then I rolled it, so I went back, had another go. And it was my fault. I absolutely just steered into it, kept steering into it. Probably was not paying attention until it was too late. And she went. But see, again, cutting through the ice, because it's got the nice clearance at the front, and it's got good power. I mean, the loaf sitting in the back, this goddamn horse of a vehicle is helping out with weight distribution. By the way, today, or tonight, whatever, this fence was back for me at the Lake Coved garage. That's been missing for ages. I'm not sure if it's because I've always had a trailer park nearby. You just see in the background the corner of a semi-trailer. That used to be nearer to that fence, but I realised the other week when I had a trailer near the ice that that wasn't like repairing itself between map refreshes. And I moved the trailer yesterday, I believe. And then yeah, that fence is back tonight, so I'm not sure if it was just me that's had that fence missing the entire time with all the barrels and all the shit in the way, but it was back. I like flying down here as well. Again, stick it in high along there and it just drifts nicely. It drifts a hell of a lot more than it like you would expect, because a lot of trucks, once you drift sideways, they just dig in and flip. And again, the right situation, the right bounce and all the rest of it, that's definitely going to happen. But yeah, I've flown down there loads where you drift around that corner, just go wide around the telegraph pole and go flying down, usually towards the dam, and then I go splat into the wall or something. But yeah, there's so many times it looks like it should have rolled going around there, and it just doesn't. So again, I'm just flying around, messing around. I went kind of down to the farm lane, did a loop round through this field. I've been through this field in quite a lot of trucks, but again, very few can actually maintain high gear while going through here. Whereas this thing, it didn't catch its bumper as I bumped back up there or anything. Another thing I actually do really like about this truck is I think it's a very good looking truck. It's a very like nice, sleek looking truck. I think it looks really good in black as well. I was looking earlier in all the different colours, and it doesn't look as good in white or grey. Like, there's just something very nice about the black colour. I believe because like the bumpers were colour coded. Like when I painted it white or grey, pink, whatever, I was just going through all the colours. It does look nice as well though in like bright yellow, because I believe like yellow and black do go together pretty nicely. But yeah, just as like when it's painted black, it's all just colour coded with a bumper and everything, and I think it suits it very well. And I actually normally like a lot of the older looking trucks in this game, but yeah, this is one of the more modern, sleek looking trucks that I think looks very nice. For some reason it reminds me of like the newest shaped Mustang that's got like the narrower headlights, but again, it's got a nice look to it, and yeah, it reminds me of it. It saved my bacon there. quick last minute emergency winch. I apologise, there's a little glitch, typical, but at least it didn't glitch the actual bit where I, yeah, flung an emergency winch out. And I did the Jeff special, by the way, going down that hill. That's another thing that it can do, because it's got the diffs and all-wheel drive are like optional. A lot of things, for me personally anyway, I've been having a little bit more luck on the actual like ice in Lake Coved, but generally speaking on the runway or down that bit in Smithville, I generally need trucks to, like, you can disable all-wheel drive. Like Jeff has been, like, he's done all kind of trucks with the Jeff special, and I believe he's on PC, and he seems to I think it's just slightly different to the PS4. Like, I can't get some of the trucks that have got diffs always on to work, whereas, like, yeah, because this has got the option, whereas the other two Vorons are permanently diffs on. So yeah, it's just another thing. It's like doing the Jeff special when I'm flying down a road. Not only are you already going a pretty decent speed, but turn the all-wheel drive off. Personally, for me, it's kind of like I said, like the Jeff special light is not like the proper full-fat version that he was doing, but if I'm in 8th gear, turn all-wheel drive off, just put it in high range, don't even let go of the accelerator or anything, and yeah, usually it winds up and does, like I said, not quite as like full on as the proper Jeff special, which you need to check out. Check out his video. His videos are the best at explaining it. He can do a lot more trucks than I can, but yeah, it's worth knowing. So even like this though, climbing up this mountain, I brought a few other trucks up here. I think the Kolob I brought up here, the Derry. This thing absolutely just motors up here like it's nothing really, compared to even trucks like the Kolob that have got big tyres, like plenty of engine power. They were still really struggling to get up there really. This thing was like, it was absolutely nothing. Just flying down here, I see my target going in, like, god damn it. Tree, not impressed. We'll see about that. What a goddamn cheeky tree. The tree of liberty has been watered by running it over. My right to travel. Of course, I always enjoy flying off the cliff. I wouldn't say this one... Well, you'll see in a second actually why I do use this one quite a lot. Flying off the cliff. Hey look, I finally got something else to go a bit mental. For a second I was like, oh my god, what a goddamn beast. Landed on its roof, tried to flip back to its wheels, then it started going a little bit crazy. You can kind of see there where the physics just suddenly decided to let it go. Walk away. And I landed, looking around like, are we good? You see that rock in the... I thought that was a cargo really far away. I was like, god damn, I did well with that one. And then I moved the camera around and realised it was just a little rock floating in the air. I mean, yeah, I don't know why, I'm still addicted to flying kites with this thing. Flying fuel trailers, cargo, oversized cargo, all sorts. And this thing motors up in high very nice. It even still climbs pretty well in auto when you're flying things. However, when you jump off the cliff, this is just very nicely balanced when you're doing this. Go a little bit to the left so you don't clip your wheels on a rock, but bam. And then of course, stick it in high range. Pretty much guaranteed to wind up into it. Probably not if you try and engage it like mid-landing, but yeah, start driving into the water. To be honest, normally when I do this sort of thing, I'd have a scout fuel trailer I'd be flying rather than a piece of cargo, but I wasn't really putting a whole lot of thought into it. I just had some cargo at the other end. I was like, yep, that'll do. But yeah, obviously when you go through water, you kind of wheelie even better if you've got a piece of cargo or a scout fuel trailer hanging off like this. But yeah, it floats, the front floats either way. And I've drove through here loads. I'm not even sure if I've ever not got across here. I might have once or twice, I don't know, but I've been over here about 4 or 5 times in the last week, and it makes it just every time. And obviously that just doesn't just go for here. There's loads of places where there's like quite a bit of deep water that could kind of, yeah, stops most trucks, or you got to go round or whatever. This thing can motor through just about anything. Even up here, I was eyeing it up. I didn't want to let my cargo go. But what I could do though, as someone has suggested before, is like say move the crane around to the front so the cargo's hanging over the front of my bonnet, and then that would like weigh the nose down a bit more, whereas at the minute I'm kind of making it more difficult for myself because, yeah, I've got a load of weight hanging over the back and I'm just trying to wheelie as I'm going up this hill. But stick it in low range diffs on. It's just really the rocks you got to climb over. Once you spit them out the way of the wheels, it grips in and we're off. See, straight into high. Because I had nothing else to do. Like, yep, I'll go flying off here. I did that last time with the oversized cargo. Naturally occurring one, of course. Thought I'd got away with it. Oh, god damn it. So close. But yeah, this thing, as you'll see, is just, you can repeatably fly off here. And why wouldn't you want to do that? So pretty much after I'd landed, straight into high, and we're off. I did this, I don't know, 7 or 8 times tonight probably. I didn't cross the water every time, but I jumped off there a few more times. And yeah, I landed it every single time, I believe. So it's very stable once it actually does land, because it keeps the weight nice and low. And that's why I believe it was the Voron D seems to like very similar looking design to this, just kind of looks like the older shape model sort of thing. It seems to have like a slab of weight in its roof, whereas this doesn't. Like, I would say there probably is a little bit of cab weight, but I would say the vast majority of the weight really is in the chassis. And it's doing pretty well considering there's a crane flopping around with some cargo on the end of it. Oh, I went for attempt number 2, got up there again, went for a better jump this time. Thought I'd got away with it. Oh, what a goddamn beast. Sons of bitches. Got me again. See, flying around there, I've got the dual rears on now, so you can see how much I was pushing my luck going around there, and it was close. The loaf definitely got an eyeball in of the grass, but it was good. It's professional. Of course, you've got to get yourself a loaf. But you see, with the loaf weighing down the back a little bit, and the fact that it's got the dual rears, it has kind of doubled my potential grip, as long as you're driving on the right sort of conditions to where you can take advantage of the dual rears. It doesn't really bother me anymore, but it used to bother me with the dual rears that I only had chains on the outside set, and that probably is realistic. I don't know, but yeah. It's just when you look at it in the garage and one wheel is chained and one isn't, it kind of looks like the inner wheel is not quite touching the floor because the chains are obviously like making the outer wheel slightly wider, or I don't know, the radius bigger or whatever. So it doesn't really bother me anymore, but it used to. That's why I liked the cleaner look of the single chained. But I actually do as well like how they, just any mud or terrain, like single rears can just fit into any terrain or shape. It's gonna squidge the wheel into that pattern, whereas these definitely do sit more like a block. So yeah, if you're on like a funny angle, you're driving over a rock, it's not going to kind of deform to it, it's just going to lift it up, and that's the end of it. But again, I'm in high range with a loaf on my back and a sideboard, and it's still flying up there, no problems at all. And that's what, if you get this truck, you'll realise that, yeah, you can take the piss as far as just sitting it in high range and flying all over the place goes. Down here, the old loaf's hanging on. Weight distributions. What a goddamn professional. Like I said, get yourself a loaf. He knows what he's doing. I was going for another lap basically. See, when I was cutting across here though, there's some massive dip in the ground now that I couldn't really see. But I fell in it pretty goddamn well. And I didn't tip over, which even I was surprised, to be honest, watching it back. Even when I reversed now, I was like, god damn, it's a bigger hole than I thought. That's definitely what she said. After I left, of course. But anyway, yeah, that's the main reasons why you want to get yourself a Voron Grad. It's got very good lights as well. And lastly, I mean, you're about to see truly what a goddamn horse of a vehicle the loaf is. Went for a little jump. I mean, look at him. Is that, or is that not loaf trained? He's heard them Titanic stories. he wants in the party boat. Oh, what a goddamn professional. So yeah, that's about it for today. Get yourself a tuna, get yourself a loaf, have a tuna sandwich, and enjoy yourself. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.